Cost objects, units, and centers. A cost object, any activity for which a separate measurement of cost is undertaken. For example, a product. When a technician visits a house to repair a boiler or a machine, that is an activity, and a total cost may be required to calculate. Then we have a cost center. An audit department in a company is a cost center. A HR department could be a cost center, or a ward in a hospital could be a cost center. So and then a cost unit, that could be a table, a chair, a laptop, or a plane, or a bridge. That could be a cost unit. We need to find out, obviously, the total cost of doing these things. So what we do, we create a cost card, and basically a cost card is a list of all the costs associated with one activity, one object, or one unit. And it looks like this. Now this is quite a comprehensive picture of a cost card. Most of the time cost cards are simply plain, they don't have all these things in there. So what we can see in the cost card, and however the sequence is very important. You always start with the direct cost, and then you move on to the variable, and then you move on to the fixed cost. So as you can see, we have direct material, direct labor, direct expenses, we get prime cost, then we add variable production overheads, and we get variable cost of production. And then we add fixed production overheads, and we get total production cost. And then we can add non-production overhead, which can give us a total cost of a unit. Now, although it is a practice that mostly direct costs, we start with direct costs. But sometimes we build a cost card only including variable cost. So these are the variable costs, then you add variable cost of production, and then you add variable non-production cost as well. And then you get a variable cost of production, depending on the decision making. So we will see some of the exercises where we're only focusing on the variable cost and not the fixed cost. I have mentioned briefly that fixed costs are the one generally we can't control. So when it comes to decision making, we tend to ignore those costs because we can't really do anything with that. So we only focus on the variable cost. Now we will build a brief cost card here. We have an activity on this page, which is Drewry produces 3 products and have traditionally used a costing system which absorbs the overheads according to a labor hour rate based on direct labor hours, which are currently 88,000 hours. The following overheads cost figures are from the current year: setup costs, ordering costs, packaging costs, engineering costs, overheads. This is a slightly different way of putting all of the indirect expenses together. What you could imagine normally would be rent, rates, insurance, security costs, for example. So this is one way of putting all of the overheads together. And there are many other ways of doing it. For example, overheads in production, overheads in packaging, overheads in finishing, overheads in distribution. So that's one way. And the other way is this. So there's many different ways. So in this case, we have got setup cost, we have order receiving cost, packaging cost, and engineering cost. These are the total overheads. The 3 different products, that the direct cost per unit of product X, Y, and Z are 8, 12, and 6. And the direct material is 25, 20, and 11. And then the units produced are 30, 20, and 8,000. The labor cost is 6 pounds per hour. It is asking us to require the total cost per unit of 3 products: X, Y, and Z. And I'm building a cost card. This card for these 3 products. And traditionally, it's labor and material, So labor cost is straightforward 8, 12, and 6. And then we have material 25, 20, and 11. Just picking it from the person and placing it there, and that's why direct costs are easier to deal with. The problem is always the overheads. And they are like, I have learned 7 different techniques of allocating overheads. And there will be more, obviously, which would be quite specialist if I don't know them. That means they're very specific to a specific industry. For example, chemical industry, they have quite specific costing techniques which they don't really teach. But it's kind of process costing. So there are 7 different well-known costing techniques which deal with overheads. So the rest is overheads. Now, how do we do this? So we have a table, a chair, and a desk, whatever. We know this is the cost of material and we know this is the cost of labor. Then the whole factory spent 1.848 million pounds on the overheads, on the rent rate, insurance, security guard, cleaning, etc., everything. Now, how do I work this out? That how much this one chair actually cost or drive those expenses? Because those expenses were incurred on rent, rate, insurance, because we were producing these 3 products in the factory. And they cost it. We know that they cost it. But how much each cost, that's what we need to know. Now, in reality, there is no technique which can tell us 100% correctly how much. There is no technique in existence. We can do it, but the cost of doing it will be so much that the benefits will be less. So we don't do that. And the time, it will be extremely time consuming. So we do a guess. That's what the companies do. They guess. So many other techniques involve guessing. And obviously not just guess. When you guess, you have to support that with your workings. You have to justify those to the auditors and so on. So one technique says that let's put all these expenses in a bucket. So just like water, full of bucket. So you need to imagine this to understand this basically. So let's say you have a bucket full of overheads like water, and each of the products are like sponges. When you make them, they go through that bucket and they absorb a little bit of water in them. Now, how much water is going to be absorbed by each sponge would depend on how big the sponge is, for how long it stays in the water, these 2 things. So mostly how much material it took and how much labor it involved. That's the most important. So most favorite method of absorbing is that if a product takes 1 hour, it would take 1 hour worth of overheads with it. And if the product is 2 hours, it would take 2 hours worth of overheads. So what we do, we calculate the total hours carried out in a factory, and then we calculate how much the total overheads are, and then we divide the overheads by the number of hours, and we find out 1 hour overhead for 1 hour. So if a product would take 1 hour, it would take that many overheads with it. So that's what the information is telling us. So, overhead per hour would be calculated by total overheads divided by total hours. The total overheads are 1.848000 divided by total number of hours are 88,000. And this gives us $21. So this logic says, and this is the oldest logic we have used in the cost accounting, memory accounts, that we will absorb the overheads on the basis of how long it takes to make it. Because when the labor was working on that product, that was the time we were paying rent for. That was the time we were insured for. That was the right time we were using electricity and heating and security guards. So that is the logic. So on this basis, we will add some money to all of these three accounts. So first of all, we need to work out how long it takes to make one of X, Y, and Z. And we will start with Z. Okay, who can tell me how long it takes to produce 1 unit of Z? We pay £6 to our labor, and the cost is £6. That means 1 hour. Okay, down there 6 hours, up there £6. Yeah, that means 1 hour. So 21. I add 21. It took 1 hour to make Z, so I will add 21 to this part. Then, how long it takes to make one of Y? 2 hours. 2 times 21. And this gives me 42. And how long does it take to make an X? 1 hour and 20 minutes, right? So we can call it 1.33. 1.33. And this is the cost. We can call it 28. Yeah? So this is the cost. And that's how we find out the costing of different products and services in a factory.